All right, here we go with the Unit 7 review. I can't believe we're already at Unit 7, but here we go. Number one, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court from 1801 to 1835? And that was John Marshall. Number two, what stated that the United States would not interfere in European affairs? Monroe Doctrine. But the Monroe Doctrine also clearly stated that Americans would defend and protect their own country as well. So you're going to see Monroe Doctrine a couple times here. Number three, who became a new hero for America during the War of 1812? And that was Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was known as Old Hickory, and he was also known as the common man's president. And later on, in one of your essay questions, we'll actually get a little bit more into um, why he was considered the common man's president. Number four, wasn't it? What is an example of an internal improvement that the federal government would pay for because of the American system? And that was roads. And part of the American system was really there to help with improving transportation, trade from the east to the west. Number five, what was Andrew Jackson's nickname? The common man's president. And number six, what showed that Americans would defend and protect their country? That also was the Monroe Doctrine. All right, the next clump of questions. What term means pride in one's own country? And that is nationalism. And be very careful with nationalism and sectionalism. All right, sectionalism shows loyalty to one's region or section. Okay, so nationalism is you could argue is like on a larger scale. Number two, what was written during the War of 1812? That was the Star Spangled Banner, our national anthem today. Number three, what term means the refusal by a state to follow a national law? And that is nullification, to nullify a law and decide not to follow it. Number four, which state felt that the Alien and Sedition Acts were unconstitutional? That was Virginia. And number five, which state nullified the tariff of 1832? They felt like they were being unfairly taxed for buying goods, and that is South Carolina. And we've already talked about number six, so we'll just go ahead and move on. Number one, what increased the production of cotton after 1793? And that was the cotton gin. Initially, people thought that the cotton gin would actually kind of slow slavery down a little bit because now we could start using machinery to pick the debris out of cotton, but it actually increased slavery because cotton producers started seeing how much faster they could put their product out and sell cotton. It actually wound up increasing slavery. Number two, what was the line for the Missouri Compromise drawn? It was called 3630, and those are the lines of latitude and longitude. Number three, what is true about the number of senators leading up to the time before the Civil War? And that is equal representation for North and South. And that certainly was also a pretty big issue, the North and South wanting to be fairly represented. All right, essay questions. Number one, now what you'll see here in red, these are possible answers. When it comes to essay questions, a lot of this can be put in your own words, and you'll have your own opinions about certain things. These are just some possible answers. Number one, there were several differences between the North and the South that caused problems between the two regions. Name two of these differences, then pick one of the differences you have chosen and tell how both the South and the North felt about this difference. First of all, let's say the North wanted tariffs to encourage people to buy American-made products, while the South disliked them because other countries raised their tariffs, which hurt tobacco and cotton exports. And South Carolina, or it's not South Carolina, but the South itself, which South Carolina was in, the South itself was very agrarian or agriculture based, and their livelihood depended on the sale of tobacco and cotton. Number two, the North wanted to end slavery and stop it from spreading westward. The South wanted to continue slavery to increase cotton and tobacco production. And then here's a couple of other possible answers that you could put as well. Number two for essay, that should not be in red. That should be black. Let's change that really quick. All right, there we go. Nat Turner led a revolt that killed 60 white people. Nat Turner was then caught and hung. Explain the impact that the Nat Turner Rebellion had and how Southerners and Northerners each felt about slavery after this. Look, The South is going to have their own views about slavery after the Nat Turner Rebellion, and the Northerners are going to see it differently. For example, Southerners were actually now more determined to continue slavery, and they thought that after the Nat Turner Rebellion, because Nat Turner had done this, that they actually had to be more strict on their slaves to keep them in line and to control them in a more harsh manner. The Northerners, on the other hand, or abolitionists, wanted to end slavery because of how violent the Nat Turner Rebellion was. So each of them saw this event completely differently. The South said, "Oh, well, if this is going to take place, then we need to be more strict with slaves." And then the North saw it as, hey, in order to end this violence, let's free the slaves, and then we won't have these types of rebellions anymore. So each side viewed it differently. Number three, before Andrew Jackson became a president, he helped lead the American troops in the War of 1812. President Jackson was nicknamed the common man's president. Give two reasons why he was such a well-liked president. Well, he's the first Southern president. He came from a poor family, so your lower class people felt like they could relate to him, or he could relate to them. He was a farmer, so obviously farmers liked him. People felt they could connect to him because of his background. And of course, he was a hero from the Battle of New Orleans, helping to lead the United States in the victory of the War of 1812. Number four, there are 5 events that added to the growth of nationalism: the War of 1812, the American system, the Marshall Court, the Monroe Doctrine, the election of Andrew Jackson. Pick 2 of the events from above and explain how the events help lead to nationalism. So here are all the different possibilities right here. Okay, here's all 5. So we got the War of 1812, the American system, the Marshall Court, the Monroe Doctrine, and the election of Andrew Jackson. And all of these are possibilities. I'm going to read just a couple of these. Let's say you decide to do the War of 1812. Well, it helped nationalism grow in the United States. By defeating the British, the Americans felt stronger and more established, and they feel like they needed to be more respected. Let's go to the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine caused nationalism because it stated that the United States would defend and protect itself. And it's like, it's like the United States is saying, hey, we are going to look after ourselves. We are going to take care of ourselves. So don't mess with us. So that led to an increase in nationalism as well. So those are some of the different essay questions that you'll have. But there is the review for Unit 7. I wish you all the best on your Unit 7 post-assessment, and hopefully you did well on your study guide or on your review. Have a great day.